Welcome to Pimpy's Investment Chat, where we keep investment talk simple. And here's your host, Pimpy.
What is going on out there, peeps? Man, I'm really watching the developments happening over there in Iraq. And I know that there's not a lot of people out there talking about what's really going on. There are some games being played with the Iraqi Dinar, and it looks like al-Sudani is looking for ways to put a stop to this. I really think it's a cat and mouse game between America and China, and Iraq's right in the middle of it. There's a few things going on, so let's get into this and go over what might be happening. Before we get started, do me a favor and hit the thumbs up button, and if you're not a subscriber, please do so, because when you do, it helps out the channel, and I certainly do appreciate it. If you're thinking about buying gold and silver, head on over to our friends at Money Metals Exchange. The link will be down below in the description. If you are a first-time buyer and you spend more than $100, use promo code Pimpy Silver. Yes, it has changed. PIMPY-SILVER. So if you're watching this video and it's an older video, make sure you check on current videos because the code is going to be changing from time to time from now on. Also, I can be found on other platforms. Everybody knows I have my own website, Pimpy's News Network. Over here, I post videos that I can't get away with over on YouTube. Also, I have a group on Facebook called Pimpy's Investment Chat. Over here, we do talk about gold, silver, cryptocurrencies, as well as foreign currency investments. Come on over here and join us. It's free to do so. You can also come follow me on Twitter, MeWe, YouTube, and Odyssey. The links for all these platforms will be down below in the description. So for whatever reason, if I get removed off of one platform, you could find me on the others. All right, so this article right here, Sudani stresses immunizing Iraq from currency smuggling and money laundering. My first thought was, well, I can't find a more clear picture or hint that Iraq is going to have to redenominate their currency. In other words, get rid of the old currency and print out new types of currencies. It just makes sense to me every time I see articles like this. There are currency being smuggled out of the country. There's a lot of corruption involved with the current Iraqi dinar. It just makes sense to me in order to make those criminals, all their efforts worthless, just to go ahead and redenominate the currency and make the other one obsolete. People can't come in with the old currency and exchange it for the new currency. So you can understand, if you have stolen a large amount of Iraqi dinar, you're going to have to explain to them how it is you got your hands on so much of it when you go to make the exchange happen. I'm sure there might be ways around it, but it's going to make it really tough for those criminals to then get their hands on the new currency if they've stolen a lot of the old currency. So I'm going to skip down to this part of the article. So al-Sudani stressed that his visit to the ministry at the beginning of the new year reflects the government's keenness to implement its ministerial platform, which focuses on service and the economy, noting that economic reform is a prelude to social reform, which just makes sense. Look, you can say what you want about Trump, but there's no doubt about it. In 2019 and right in the beginning of 2020, we saw the poverty level shrink. We saw the pay gap shrink. We saw more people out work than ever before. Unemployment numbers lower than ever before. Tax reform that every single group benefited from. So despite the lying liberal media, it's just bullcrap. People need to do their own research. People were much more happier until the Dems won in midterms, took over, and all hell broke loose. Anyways, it's a small side rant because it's important for people to understand. You can see right here, economic reform is a prelude to social reform. People were much happier when everybody was back to work and they were getting higher paychecks. The household median rose by over $4,000 under Trump, set a record. In other words, households had an increase annually of just over $4,000. Never been done by any other president. So, like it says, economic reform is a prelude to social reform, which is not an intellectual luxury or for media consumption. In other words, don't believe what the media is telling you. They're just going to freaking lie. They are part of a much bigger agenda, and they don't give a crap what people find out about them. They just lie. And people are getting hip to this. So you can see over there in Iraq, they have the same issue. He pointed out that the fluctuations of the exchange rate and their impact on the Iraqi economy made us adherent to inevitability of the economic reform and support agriculture, industry, tourism, and trade, instead of Iraq being a market for imported goods and a corridor for smuggling hard currency and money laundering. Now, this is interesting because it says instead of being a market for imported goods, we know that Iraq imports a lot of their goods. So what they want to do is turn that around. Instead of relying on other countries for their goods and products, they should be able to produce them there in their own country and avoid importing other goods. Because if you're going to import them, you're definitely going to need a higher exchange rate than the one you have, so you have more purchasing power. But that's the thing about this whole world economic reform thing, is a lot of countries or currencies are getting beat to crap. They're being devalued everywhere. Well, that benefits the globalists who have no problem with coming into foreign countries and investing in them, opening up business there because the labor is dirt cheap. That's what they want. Al-Sudini pointed out that Iraq has an opportunity to rise as an industrialized country with an industrial identity, and that the government supports the industrial sector in this path. Yes, stop relying on imports. Make everything yourself. So you can see that's what Al-Sudini is thinking. You know what? We need to do that here. Same thing. Bring back manufacturing. Those who manufacture have an easier time making through financial crisis. He stressed the need for industry to be away from political investment, and that partnership with the private sector contributes to the advancement of Iraqi industry, stressing the protection of local product as a means of supporting the private sector and reducing the dumping of local markets with imported goods. That's what we want. What this does is strengthens your local currency. And it really helps with your trade deficits. More jobs are provided. There's a sense of pride. You know what I mean? Made in Iraq, just like made in America. Al-Sudini directed to audit industrial development licenses and to sponsor small and medium enterprises as they establish major projects and contribute to job creation. Yes, they do. You know, I get happy when I see articles like this because it really looks like Iraq is getting it, that they just can't rely on other people. Don't rely on the World Bank. Don't rely on other countries helping you. You need to do what you can to help your own people first and foremost. Then I see other articles where they're doing all they can to contribute and connect with World Economic Forum. So this is an awesome article. I was really pumped to see this. You know, I'm hoping Al-Sudini is correct. Focus on your people. Focus on your country. Focus on producing your own goods. Manufacturing your own goods is the best place to start, first and foremost. So make Iraq great again. While it continues to rise in Iraq, Egypt turns on the World Bank to solve the dollar problem. Well, looky here. Other nations are waking up. They probably listen to my videos and they go, Pimpy's right, dude. We definitely don't want the IMF and the World Bank involved in our country. The Egyptian authorities announced today, Monday, their move towards control of the exchange rate of the Egyptian pound against the US dollar, after the local currency witnessed a decline against the dollar due to conditions imposed by the World Bank on borrowing countries, including Iraq. Yes. Stay away from the World Bank. Stay away from the IMF. The Egyptian authorities, according to what the news reported, announced that it will take measures to limit the circulation of the dollar on the black market and stop the floating of the currency, noting that the Egyptian measures are a coup on the conditions imposed by the World Bank on countries borrowed from it. Yes, this is what Dr. Shabibi was talking about before they forced him into the Paris Agreement. They wanted to forgive them of all kinds of debt, but they had to turn their monetary policies over to the World Bank and the IMF. Dr. Shabibi didn't like it because after he reviewed it, he said this is great at holding down inflation, but it does nothing to help grow and strengthen the Iraqi dinar, and wanted to walk away from that. But he was convinced otherwise. The condition of the World Bank to float the currency in the market and reduce local support for local currency against the dollar greatly affected the rise in the exchange rate of the dollar against the dinar, as I showed Baghdad today earlier, as Iraq continues to cooperate with the World Bank in dealing with the local economy according to what is between via its official website. So that's why I was shocked to see that they are selling US dollars to the public. That's not a good thing. That weakens your currency. The only thing I can think of is that they wanted to flood the country with US dollars and try to cause it to lose value while they're destroying their own currency, making sure that there's less of it out there in circulation. That's why I was surprised that they were making this move. Usually you don't do that. My thought was that they were trying to do whatever it took to stabilize the exchange rate. And that was one of their tricks. But you could see Egypt is getting hip to this. They're going to take matters into their own hands to prevent their currency from being devalued. And so should Iraq and any other countries. The dollar crisis is pushing the government in a narrow box, and the Sudanese are heading to diversify revenues. So is the world waking up to all the bullying that the United States has been doing against them? The fact that they're using the US dollar as a weapon, the fact that they're using the SWIFT system as a weapon? Yes, they are. They're looking for alternative mechanisms used to communicate trades between banks. So if you look right here, it says the exchange rate of the dollar is still fluctuating after the recent rise, which approached 1,600 dinars for every dollar, as it's almost stable at 1,500. Well, when they devalued the currency, they dropped it down to 1,450 dinars for every dollar. It's going in the wrong direction. If it gets to 1,600 dinars, that's a huge decrease in the value of the Iraqi dinar. That's not benefiting people who invested in the dinar. The government of Sudan is trying to diversify sources of revenue to maintain the stability of the Iraqi economy. At the time when Finance Committee confirmed that the exchange rate of the dollar would be 1,450 dinars for every $1. That's where they devalued it to. But right now, the current value on the exchange rate is less. And the Prime Minister confirmed yesterday, Monday, the exchange rate fluctuations and their impact on the Iraqi economy made us stick to the inevitability of economic reform, support for agriculture, industry, tourism, and trade, instead of Iraq being a market for imported goods and a passage for smuggling hard currency and money laundering, noting that Iraq has an opportunity, and I read this on the other article. Still, it's worth repeating, Iraq has an opportunity to rise as an industrial country with industrial identity, and the government is supportive of the industrial sector in this path. So right here it says, in turn, Al-Kadhimi, a member of the Finance Committee on the House of Representatives, said in an interview that the rise in the dollar exchange rate during the last month of last year negatively affected the local market and the citizens. Al-Kadhimi added that the treatments were fast and the exchange rates will return to what they were, approximately 1,405 dinars for every $1. He pointed out that the Prime Minister is trying to implement his government program accurately by diversifying sources of income and encouraging the private sector, agriculture industry, and not being satisfied with oil financial revenues, which is what they need to do. Get away from relying so much on oil revenue. Al-Kadhimi stressed the need to reduce unnecessary expenditures and increase investment expenditures in order to transform the Iraqi economy from a rentier one to an economy with multiple dimensions. Now, this paragraph right here caught my attention, which is very interesting. It says, as for the price of the dollar in the 2023 budget, the member of the Finance Committee explained that the price will remain consistent as it was in 2021 budget. 1,145 dinars for every dollar. Now, I want you to think about something. Before they devalued the currency, it was at 1,190 dinars for every dollar. When they devalued it, it went to 1,450 dinars for every dollar. This right here is saying that the budget is for 1,145 dinars for every dollar, which is cheaper than the 1,190 dinars for every dollar. That would be going in the right direction. We want that number to shrink. While the price of the barrel of oil will range between $62 and $65. Thank goodness somebody is listening to my videos. I said don't make it between $65 and $70, and make it between $60 and $65. And he expected the arrival of the draft public financial budget law for the year 2023 with the beginning of the legislative term of the House of Representatives. Stressed any delay in the draft budget law will not affect the salaries of the employees. Saleh, the financial advisor to the prime minister, said in an interview the fluctuations witnessed by the exchange markets in Iraq during the past period are not due to economic reasons, and that the financial situation in Iraq is at its best. So this tells you that they have parallel running exchanges. One that's the official rate, and the other is for a separate market rate. Now, we have been aware that they've been running parallel rates for quite some time. Now, I love this right here. It says Iraq's reserve of foreign currency exceeded 100 billion, and the current account surplus rate amounted to about 15%. Remember, they thought it'd be around 90 billion. Instead, it's at 100 billion, man. Congrats to Iraq. That's all great things that you need. These are all the things that you need to protect your local currency, the Iraqi dinar. He pointed out what happened was a result of regulatory controls that linked the windows for selling foreign currency, especially foreign transfers, to the so-called international compliance with the dollar area. Therefore, the Federal Reserve Bank in the United States monitors its currency and asks about ways to go. Saleh explained that Iraqi merchants are required to provide correct documents on their orientations and the final beneficiaries, as well as the type and the price of goods, so as not to arouse suspicion amongst the international authorities. But then you put it in the newspaper. In the first period, demand was more than the supply, and the gap occurred. So I do think it's interesting that the 2023 budget is keeping an exchange rate of 1,145 dinars. The trick is, will they make that an official rate change? Will they move it up to 1,145 dinars? That would be awesome. It's not the huge change we wanted, but at least it's going in the right direction. We would be going from 1,190 dinars for every dollar and move to 1,450 dinars for every dollar. The current market says 1,600 dinars for every dollar, and they're saying the budget is for 1,145 dinars. That would be going all the way in the other direction, which is exactly what we want. That would increase Iraq's purchasing power for the dinar to the point where it helps those in need. It also allows Iraq to deal with the huge fluctuations of US dollar demands. Anyways, the news looks really good. It's interesting to watch this thing play out. If people start paying attention to what Egypt is saying and doing, like Sri Lanka did, and they start getting away from what it is the IMF wants, what it is the World Bank wants, because they'll figure out that those people aren't there because they care about these countries. The World Bank and IMF is there to entrap these countries. And so it looks like Egypt is getting hip to this, and I'm sure they're talking to other countries right there around them. Stop relying on the IMF. Stop relying on the World Bank. It's something I've been preaching out for a long time. They really need to focus on their own people and their own country instead of caving in to this so-called globalist movement. Anyways, that's it for now. You guys let me know what you think. I'll look forward to your comments, and I will get at you later. I'm out.